Today in this video, we're going to be breaking down a 17 Darkflame Cleft. Now, we haven't visited this dungeon on my channel since the first week of the season, so almost 2 months ago now. I'm hoping I can show off a couple cool new strategies that higher groups are able to implement here. We are going to be running a Outlaw Rogue, the Arms Warrior, and a Feral Druid, along with a Resto Shaman for that Lust. And yeah, we're just going to get into it. So I'm going to be talking about everything that went right, wrong, and everything in between. Talent and route information can all be located down below via the Raider.io permalink, but let's get into this here. So starting off, we're going to be pulling this Overseer along with all of these Laborers. Now, this is pretty standard. This is kind of free percent. The Laborers don't give much, but they do apply a nasty bleed to the tank, so you want to be a little careful here. I'm going to be using Ring Ritual Mud on pull, and then we're going to be going into this left-hand side. We are not pulling the casters, so it's very important everyone hugs the left and comes onto this orange-marked target. We're going to be dropping Ursol's Vortex to make sure none of the mobs go flying anywhere that we don't want them to. And now at this point, we are all standing on top of orange. A lot of people don't know this, but this mob can be very submissive if everyone's in melee range. It won't throw rocks, therefore it removes any group damage that's going out. So if you're getting pelted, stand in melee. Now the next kind of knock here, we're going to be trying to get them into the wall, but a well-placed Earth Grab Totem from our Shaman will keep those mobs in place, well executed by a Chicken. And then we're essentially just focusing on this Overseer. So now at this point, we are going to go into the next pull in a second. Now, I didn't have to commit too many defensives there. Basically, Celestial Brews and Trinkets kept me alive. This dungeon's fairly tame for the Brewmaster Monk until about the middle of the dungeon. So all this early trash, you don't need too much for. We're going to be pulling just these Laborers for just a second while I get everything kind of situated, get Breath of Fire active, and then we are going to be pulling double Overseer with the other side of Laborers. These bleeds can add up very quickly, so make sure you are using some defensives, health pots, and a little bit of healing from your healer, but they do die pretty quickly. Again, we use Ursols on the very first knock. The second knock, we're going to be using Earth Grab Totem to prevent them from getting knocked anywhere that we don't want them to. If those Laborers get knocked into a pull that we skipped or a pull that we're not planning on pulling, things can go kind of sideways pretty quickly. Now, this pull isn't super efficient, but what we're going to be doing next is going to be kind of interesting. Now, at the time of recording this, or I guess at the time of doing this run, this was actually earlier last week, you were still able to pull a lot of trash onto first boss and use the boss's mechanics to kill them. That no longer works. It has been hotfixed. I never actually got the opportunity to test it outside of like a random +6 I was doing on an alt, but this strategy I think works just as well. It helps get a lot of mobs group, and it's fairly low group damage along with fairly good count, actually. So what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to look to see where the patrol is located because we want to make sure we're executing this part well. It goes wrong, but we recover quite nicely. So the idea here is that we're going to be pulling this Wick Lighter, getting a kick on it, and then what we're doing is we're running all the way to the very end of this hallway here, basically going into the boss's room. This will trigger the RP, spawning these circles. We want to make sure we're dodging it. We didn't want to get the Overseer. Ideally, you don't get Overseer and everything's all fine and dandy. What we're trying to do is getting everything clumped up in this tiny little corner. And then now that the Mole Herders are stacked, we can stack on top of them, reducing the group damage we're going to be taking because they won't be throwing rocks. All we're doing is we're kicking the one Wick Lighter that's in this pull, and the Overseer, if he happens to go to knock the mobs, there's two ways to counter it. Obviously, we have ways to stop the knock with Ursol's Vortex and Earth Grab. I Ring of Peace just in case they were going to get knocked back, just in case we missed that Earth Grab. It was placed at the right time, though. And the other way to counter is just obviously line of sight back up around this pillar that we're playing on. So like I said, fairly chill pull. I'm actually committing most of my defensives here, though, because I'm not going to need them for boss. The Wild Wallop's going to send the last little mole off into the right, and that's how we do that. So normally, we do this pull without the Overseer. The Overseer just ended up allowing us to skip a few corridor creepers at the very end of the dungeon, so not a big deal. And we're going to be heading into Ol'Waxbeard here. This has to be the hardest boss for our group this season. We have so many deaths here that it's crazy. Like last night, for context, we were in an 18, and I think we just bricked the key here. Like we had like 3 deaths on this boss or something. For some reason, carts are hard to see. The charge bugs out on us all the time, and I'm not sure if it's because we're doing something that's not great. I don't know if it's because we're playing full melee. I don't really know what the issue is. But basically this wild charge always bugs out for some reason. It either randomly will go sideways, it'll like stop and then start again, and then people will get hit. Sometimes our DPS get really antsy and they just want to like charge back to the boss or grapple back, and then they get hit by the charge again and it kills them. So a lot goes wrong here generally. But the idea for this fight is keep Waxbeard near a rail, and you want to use his mechanics to kill these laborers. Now, funnily enough, the bleed isn't that dangerous. The most dangerous part about this encounter for any single player is going to be obviously the charge if it hits you, or it's going to be the lingering candle flame, or the luring candle flame. That candle flame does a really nasty dot, and if it stacks with obviously the bleeds, that's when it's really dangerous for players. But if a player goes up to like 15, 20 stacks of the bleed, a little bit of spot healing should keep them alive. It's really that magical dot. A lot of players kind of assume that this is just a fixate dot. It's not. It's magic damage. So as you can see here, our shaman committed astral shift to make sure he's staying nice and healthy, obviously with some healing on himself. And when you are being fixated, obviously you're going to have more stacks of the bleed naturally. Anyways, charge goes off. The ads do die to these swirls, so you can do your best to try to position near them so they get hit. Obviously, getting hit with the rail is good. I don't know how, so for example, our rogue actually is colorblind, so I think it's very difficult for him to see which rail is active. So just keep that in mind if someone is getting hit. For me, I think it's pretty easy to see, but I think when you're being fixated by a lot of ads and you have a lot of like movement going on within the fight, it might be difficult to pick out. Anyways, keeping these carts, pulling the boss to the carts and just targeting them and cleaving them down is the best thing to do. Touch of Death is super nice because you can get 2 of them in this fight. You don't need to use touch on the boss necessarily, but using them twice on the carts means that you're going to get more boss damage because you're going to get that 5% increase with Fatal Touch. But as you can see, I'm kind of sitting on all my defensives. The Rockbuster gives me a little bit of stagger. I purify it off. I use Celestial Brew to counter. I'm not being targeted by the ads or by this luring candle flame. So it's a very tame fight. But we're going to need our defenses for these next couple pulls. And so now we're heading into kind of the Waxatory, which is leading up to Blazikon. We're going to be pulling these double task workers and this fiend. Now, the way you kind of want to do this is if you're going to be doing this pull in this route is you want to make sure people are watching and kicking the explosive flamecast on these fiends. And then you also need 2 to 3 DPS watching the wick lighter. So this is a pretty scary pull when it comes to kicks. You really want to try to blow up the explosive fiends, or just the fiends in general, as well as the wick lighter caster. You don't really care about the actual candle man, the big guy. So unfortunately our warrior went down there. I think that was to the circle on the ground. You can see that he's kind of like half in it, half out. We do commit the battle res there because we need this pull to die. In our 18 that we ran last night, this is another kind of dangerous pull that we saw, I think 4 deaths too. So we were kind of workshopping this key a little bit late last night. And this is a scary pull we have kind of figured out. So we might have to change it up just a little bit. We might have to do a different kind of pull cadence or something because it wasn't working. Anyways, now that these fiends are going down, we should be a little bit safer. The problem with the fiends is they make you, if you don't kick them, they make you take increased fire damage, which can be problematic if you're not using line of sight tactics on the wandering candle. This quenching blast can do a lot of damage if you have high stacks. No stacks there brought our druid down quite a bit there. This is a normal pull, I think, doing center plus the 2 wandering candles. Now, this is a pull that can do a lot of tank damage once the mobs aren't casting their bonk. So when they're all meleeing the tank, it's actually pretty scary. I'm going to do what I can to commit a lot of my defensives here once I start taking that damage. Normally, it's going to happen about midway through the pull because they're going to start by casting their bonks, and then the candles do their big circle on the ground, and then they go back into bonks. But there's a moment in time where you start taking a lot of auto attack damage during this pull. And the kind of the pattern of movement that I'm doing is I'm walking back and forth. So I'm pulling them deep into this corner to bait their giant fire circles. And then I pull them near the exit of this area so people can line of sight in that like hallway if they need to, whether that's melee DPS or our healer. Our healer's just going to opt to, heal through this. I'm still sitting on most of my defensives. I've been pretty fortunate with their kind of melee attack sequences. I want to try to save a lot of my defenses for the next pull, though, because the next pull I've died to randomly because just an overlap of like a lot of magic damage and auto attacks. All right, so this room, you want to try to do it all in one go. It's just the most efficient use of like cooldowns, and obviously you need to kill all of the little fiends to spawn the boss. You don't necessarily need to kill the big candle man, but you do want to kill all these little fiends because each of them ignite one of the candles around the room, which spawns the boss. Now the idea for us is that we all pick one target, and we kick that target. And then once we kick, that's when we'll start sending AoE CC. Now, unfortunately, I did go down here. Our warrior immediately starts kiting. I had Fortifying Brew. I had Celestial Brew available. I also had Black Axe Brew. No reason I should have really died here. I think I was just a little bit too confident with how I was feeling up to this point. So I'm doing my best to get Threat back. We do have a Trickster Rogue. I'm not sure why Threat's taking so long. And so because Threat's taking so long, our warrior is just staying really, really far away. And now we're doing our best to kind of recover this. This is probably one of our biggest pain points in the dungeon. This went terribly wrong. We have workshopped this to now be better. The general idea is get kicks, let the first 3 go off, and then we line of sight the candle, the big candle man. The next time it happens, we do kicks, and then we just send AoE CC while actually focusing down the larger candle guy to beat that cast. You can use a couple of different points in this room to actually line of sight. You can use this candle that's to my left to LOS, or you can use the hallway that we came from as long as this guy is in the right position. So right here, you're going to see me LOSing. It's going to totally nullify that damage. It's not going to hit us. And then we're going back in here. In 16s and stuff, this pull has just been so easy that this was kind of the first time we were like, oh, wait, this pull is like seriously difficult to do. So I think we were a little just kind of overzealous going in, just like, this is free. And of course, confidence is the killer. Or I guess overconfidence is the killer. I don't. There's got to be some weird saying from Sun Tzu about it. So we are at 3 deaths at this point in the dungeon. We're going to get a nice res here. And we are preparing to take on Blazikon. Now, Blazikon is a boss that is not very great for a full melee comp, because you obviously want to light a lot of candles if you can to keep group damage low. And when melee have to run out constantly to light candles, you lose a lot of boss damage. So the way that we've kind of chosen to kind of fix that is by just healing through it. So you can see here our warrior is staying in melee, and our rogue is either vanishing or I believe it was a vanish. He vanished off the circle. So we're going to do a 3-5 split. This means we're going to take, we're going to light 3 candles, so we're going to take 5 of the dot. Now we commit Link here, which is fine. Link keeps us nice and healthy. But we're not going to be able to have Link for every single one. So we're going to need to get creative with how we're healing through this encounter. Now, little trick, there's a safe spot right here. You could technically not light or extinguish any candles and do 0 stacks, but you need to have everyone standing in the same exact spot, which is right where I was standing. Basically, the circle that the boss spawns when he's like doing the ignite, it doesn't, like, there's a little triangle of safe spot that you can't tell from looking at it, but you don't take damage. So it's hard to explain exactly where it is. I'll try to point it out a little bit better on this next cast. Our shaman is in position near the blue marker. He's in Spirit Wolf. He's getting ready to go. He drops a Wind Rush for himself, Gust of Wind. And now our melee are going out for this one. They're each lighting just 1 candle, and then they're allowed to come back. And of course, they want to make sure they're dodging the barrages. So here we're going to do a 5-3, meaning we're going to get 3 of the dots. This is going to be a little bit more manageable. And then we're spreading out for these tornadoes. Now, a good way to know where the tornado is going to go without having to like turn around and look at a candle is by using this hexagon around the boss. Basically, if you want to hit a candle, you stand on one of the corners, or is it an octagon? I think it's an octagon. Stand on a corner of the octagon if you want to hit a candle. Stand on the long edge of this octagon if you don't want to hit a candle. And that's kind of a good way to tell without having to like turn your camera around to make sure you're in line. But anyways, it's pretty much a rinse and repeat. For this dousing breath, you can move in. There's a little lip underneath the boss that will prevent the knockback. It's not that important anymore, but I remember during the first couple days and also on PTR, this boss's hitbox was super, super, super tiny. And so as a tank, if you got knocked out of melee range, the boss would instantly erupt and just kill your entire group. So I kind of am in that habit of still walking in. It's okay for melee uptime to do it as well. You just want to be a little careful. One of the last extinguishing gusts we're going to do, as you also might have noticed, our shaman and our feral druid just stack theirs up. That's also a fine strategy. You essentially only want to ignite 1 candle if possible. I think there's a world where you can do 0 candles though. So yeah, right here, there's like there's little safe spots. Like they're little tiny triangles. If you're not looking for it, it's kind of hard to see. But now with the boss going down, ideally you're killing this boss at this level around like the 14:30, 15-minute mark maybe. We're a little behind because of our deaths. We paced it out to be around the 15 or the 14-minute mark here. So we are very slow. We are much slower than we'd like to be, and that's kind of all attributed to deaths. What we're going to do here is we're going to pull this one Flametender. Then I'm going to drop a Ring of Peace here. It's going to knock the mobs back. Ideally, it's going to maybe knock them into one of those circles. Unfortunately, it doesn't. Our warrior charges in to try to get Spell Reflect. Unfortunately, he charged in too early when not all of the mobs were in range yet. And so why that's a problem is if you do it perfectly, you can get 7 or 8 of the casts to target the same player immediately. And of course, you can always counter this with like a Sigil of Silence or a leg sweep or whatever it might be. But if you have a warrior in your group who charges in and all 8 of those casts target the same player, one Spell Reflect will knock back all of the bolts. And in the 18 that we ran yesterday, he actually ended up doing like close to 40 mil with a single Spell Reflect, which is massive. So if you can land that, it's great. So this is some strategy that has been showing up lately in a lot of runs, high runs, is skipping the mini bosses. The mini bosses are just not super efficient. They just take a long time, especially for some of the more meta comps that get down because they're more AoE based. We are also implementing a similar strategy just by skipping them. And we do that by walking up the edge. I'm porting to CL. CL and Easy and Mouth can all leap up or leap to each other. And then our Shaman just has Gust of Winds, which you can also use to get up to the top. So the idea here is that we're going to be moving in a counterclockwise direction. We always break out the statue that I'll generally mark it, but we generally always try to break out the statue that's in front of us. And then of course these healing absorbs need to be healed off before the next statue spawns. So now that all of these are up against the wall, which is very nice, we do need to land a break on the one that's kind of out and away from the group. So we counter it just like that, and then we are kind of stacking up here. And that's it. Like this fight is very boring. I'm sure from our healer's point of view, this fight is very chaotic. So I'm not really sure what to talk about here. As a tank, the best thing you can do is make sure you're kind of in the right position or trying to bait the boss ahead. Now, unfortunately, when you're playing with range players, they might stand wherever they want. Ideally, everyone plays in melee and moves with the boss when the boss moves, because then the statues will be closer to each other, which means it's easier to actually land doubles. And it means that your pickaxes should be closer to the boss outside of the wax puddles. So right here, we are actually I said break any of them because it's a triple and a double, which means that we only need 2 players anyways. So that's kind of the idea. You want 2 players breaking, then the rest can just stay on boss. And then right when these break, we want to move ahead as a group. It's very important that everyone moves at the same exact time, because if not, you're going to get a statue that spawns really, really far out. So I am marking triangle here because we have a double, and a single. So you kind of want to get the one that's always out and away from the rest of them. So we're going to make a little bit of room here. And now because this is in the wax, obviously as WoW players, we're taught that anything on the ground is probably going to hurt. The wax isn't that terrible to stand in. You just don't want to stand in it for a long, like prolonged period of time. Once again, we have like a really weird set. It's like a double, kind of a double, and then a single. What we're going to opt in for is just going for this close one. And then we're going to try to spread out pretty evenly here. So luckily the warrior is able to get both with where he's standing. And then our shaman is able to get the other 2. And then we're moving ahead. So this is the general boss movement. You're trying to stay clumped, move as a group, and then break doubles with the throw Darkflame. As you can see, this is a pretty intense fight for everyone else. I am the 4th healer right now as the tank. There's not a lot I can really do here to help my healer out. Obviously, I have some healing trinkets that I have at my disposal, but I'm never taking damage on this fight to justify it. So I'm going to try to off heal here with some Vivifies. I think Master of Harmony might be a better option in this dungeon. I think there's more kind of triage healing that like Chi Burst can counter or help alleviate quite well. But I do think the instant Vivifies are quite nice. Now our warrior tried to leap out last second. He leapt to the wrong spot and he got yeeted, as the kids say. So he's just gone. Not the cleanest run, if I'm being honest. Not the cleanest run we've had, but that's okay. We finished up the Candle King. We're able to skip down quite nicely here. I'm going to do a roll dash. That's going to get me to the cart and get it started. I'm going to be able to group this up for my team. So when they get here, they are ready to just blast these little darknesses. I like to try to do this in 3 pulls if possible. Sometimes you do this in 4, sometimes you can do it in 5. How this cart works, we finally figured it out as a WoW community. This cart works, it's as long as it's above 90% health or percentage in combat, it'll stop. Or it won't stop. It'll keep going if it's above 90%. If a player is in the circle in combat and it goes below 90%, that's when the cart will stop. So you do have control. Now, if we wanted to take this cart all the way to the end, it's very, very possible. All we have to do is have the tank run very far ahead with a candle, and the rest of the players can just keep picking up candles, keep dumping, and then towards the end of the cart track, you can kind of finish everything up. I can't remember if we do that in this run. It'd be kind of cool if I can showcase that, but if not, the next pull is pretty scary. It's double creeper. Ideally, in an ideal world, after this pull here, you take it all the way to the end. And the nice thing about taking it all the way to the end is that the cart no longer depletes. So you have the full circle to work with as a tank, which is super nice. So I'm going to grab this one candle. I'm going to be trying to run ahead as best as I can. There will be one horror that runs back to the cart. You can either, there's a couple ways to fix it. You can CC it, which is like paralysis, for example. Or you can root it or something like that. But unfortunately, we're going to just be doing this pull here, which is absolutely fine. If you can take it to the end, great. But I think the way that you do that is you have to actually have some pretty well executed CC. So I think it was in like a 16 run that we did it in, or a 15, when we were practicing with our carts kind of placements, because there's just ideal pull sizes and efficiency kind of takes that I have in this place. But and that's pretty much it. Like this area is pretty chill. Now that the corridor creepers can be dispelled, it's a vibe. I do need to commit a couple of my defensives here, but I do want to make sure I'm budgeting defensives for the end of the dungeon, because I'm going to have to pull multiple corridor creepers. And at the 17 level, yeah, they hurt. They hurt a lot. So I don't want to die, because we're still on a good pace. We're slow. We're behind. We have a couple of deaths, but we budgeted way more time than we actually needed. So I'm going to do my best to try to run ahead here to grab a candle. It's very hard to see, obviously, where I'm at, but I'm at the very end of the dungeon. I'm going to pull this horror. Unfortunately, I think we keep it above 100 here, maybe. Oh no, I think it stops here. Oh no, this shit's just going. All right. So yeah, this is like ideal scenario. If you're able to do this with the previous pull as well, this would be perfect. Because there are no mobs in combat in the cart below 90. That's why this cart just kept going. But now we have this entire circle to work with. It's not going to deplete, and then when we're ready to go, we throw the dynamite in and we're, ready to take off. All right, now that that's over, we're getting ready for obviously the best part of the dungeon, which is throwing dynamite at a big man. I normally check out a little bit here. You want to get the boss. This damage does matter, but it only matters until 90%. If you get him below 90, he's going to heal. Pretty much 1 or 2 players can get him down to 90 pretty easily, as long as they're the ones, as long as they're all throwing dynamite. But there's a point where once he hits 90, this doesn't matter anymore, because he's going to heal back to 90%. Back on PTR, I believe it was like 80 or 85, or like it didn't actually, this damage mattered a lot. He does naturally slow down once he kind of reaches that point, but once we pull boss, you're going to see he'll be at 90% health again. And so now we're at this point of the dungeon, and we need to pull a little bit more than 8% trash. We're going to do this essentially in 2 pulls, which is fine. I'm going to be committing a Rigging Ritual Mud first, and then I have Bomb Suit in about 20 seconds. I also have Dampen Harm available, Diffuse, and Fortifying Brew. Celestial Brew is going to be committed next here in a couple of seconds, and then we can utilize Blackout Brew if needed. Or I'm going to sit on Celestial Brew forever and never hit it, because fuck it, there it goes, finally. Interesting thing about these sleepers, the sleepers do turn into corridor creepers, but they don't apply the debuff. So what groups have started to do is they've started pulling the sleepers onto boss, which is definitely a fine strategy. It's something that we've been discussing in our, when we get into the 18 to do to save some time. But we do have enough percent right here. So it's 3.11. We need 3.11. So this is going to be exactly 100% count. And then we're going to be able to head into the final boss with around 5 minutes. Now this boss does seem kind of like, because it's similar to Rashanon from last season, it feels like it's a lot longer than it is, but the fight is on average, whatever like the normal fight is in a boss fight, we're going to have less for it. So it's going to be roughly like 3:30, give or take. And so we're heading in. I'm going to pick up the candle and rush in almost immediately. And the way that we like to do this is we play like, we always move the candle to the far side of the boss, so we kind of always keep it on the tracks. Now, that's not always the most accurate thing, but basically we try to flop sides. The way that I like to look at this boss as well is the healer should be running out during this frontal, because there's no damage going on. The DPS should, whoever gets targeted by Shadow Blast should grab a candle when they run out. And then the tank runs out on Eternal Darkness. So you can see this progression bar here. Once it fills up, I roll out, I grab Tiger's Lust, and then I rush back. We want to dunk it between the second and third tick of his Eternal Darkness cast. Something I'm going to be doing later is those little ads that spawn as a Brewmaster monk. Because we're not going to be able to Touch of Death the boss, we can cast Touch of Death on just one of the ads to gain some boss damage through Fatal Touch. It's 5% damage increase, pretty nice. It's not gonna like make or break a key probably, but when you can get 5% damage 2 times in a fight, 1 or 2 times, it's pretty good. So we're gonna continue dunking. Our shaman's just gonna keep running out. He's like, might as well have it. One other thing that's kind of cool is you can shadow meld this Shadow Blast. So unfortunately our warrior is human, but our rogue can vanish and our Feral Druid's able to just shadow meld off the debuff. The circle will stay on the player, but the blast doesn't go off. I don't know if Blizzard will ever fix this. It's a good way to mitigate some of this damage, especially when you get to like the 17, 18 level. This Shadow Blast damage is near lethal. So you do want to be a little careful. So my Touch of Death is on cooldown, for example. So I was able to Touch of Death one of those last ads. I kind of forgot to point it out. And yeah, so basically whoever gets targeted by Shadow Blast, you run out, you grab a thing, you pop a defensive, and you're good. And then there's not really any other group damage, so there's nothing really to be too scared of. Like I said, we're moving the candle, placing it on the tracks, and we're just moving it from like the front of the boss to the back of the boss, or left, right, however you want to look at it. And this allows it so there's always a center or like you're centralized to all the candle spawns, so it's equidistance. So this fight is pretty chill. Not much to it. Yeah, there's not, if I'm going to be honest, there's not much to talk about. I like this key a lot. I wish they never changed the rookery timer. I know this is like a weird tangent, but I have nothing else to talk about. What I like about this key is that if it's done well, we had 4 deaths. We did not play clean. I don't think we deserved to time this key, but I think it's always nice when there's a couple keys in a season where you can kind of make some mistakes and blast at a higher level than you can in other keys. Like this compared to Priory of the Sacred Flame, or like I said, the rookery. I think the rookery's timer is now really tight. I liked the rookery before. I wish Blizzard never changed it from 31 to 29. They maybe should have changed it to 30, or maybe even kept it at 31. Because now that we're doing these higher keys, this key is free compared to rookery, where rookery is like pulling trash onto boss, really min-maxing boss damage versus trash damage. Some of the trash damage is still really, really high for no reason. And so, I don't know. I wish there was another free key this season, but outside of like maybe Motherload, arguably, you don't have much. But anyways, that's just the run. We are we're vibing. So we had a really good week last week. We got a couple of 17 slotted. This we got a Motherload. We had a Cinder Brew, of course, that I already did a commentary about. So if you missed that, you can check it out probably on screen in a couple seconds. And we did one other one. I forgot which one we did though. But overall, good weekend. We're looking forward to blasting some 18s here shortly. So hope you guys learned something. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.